The opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official positions of the sponsors, advertisers, or presenters. Advertising does not imply endorsement by the sponsors and presenters.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Lighting Controls Podcast. We're your hosts, Ron Kuszmar and Webster Marsh, and we have a recap video for you for the 2023 Lightfair trade show. Before we jump into the show, though, we'd like to remind everyone that this episode is presented by the LCA, the Lighting Controls Association, and that the show is financially supported by NAILD, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. And now over to Webster to tell you about some of our other awesome sponsors from this episode.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a special episode. We've got some great sponsors that jumped in and are part of this episode. The first one is McWong. Check them out, McWongInc.com. They're a great Bluetooth specialist. They are award-winning lighting control solutions for really any project that you need them. They have support in the Northeast. But check them out. We've got a special recording of the live stream that we had at Lightfair this year at the end of this episode. Also, we have our sponsor, ETC. They're amazing theatrical lighting control solutions and architectural lighting control solutions, as well as lighting fixtures themselves. We stopped by their booth and get a little interview with them. Ron's there interviewing them. Check it out in this episode. Really great information and worth finding out about their options if you're not familiar with the brand name. And finally, the other brand is Pharos, and they are also an amazing DMX solution out there for architectural installations. They just came out with some really cool stuff that is worth checking out. Again, in this episode, I interview one of the CEO of Pharos, Simon, and he had some great stuff. So as far as this episode goes, we do a quick recap of pretty much those sponsors and an additional surprise sponsor in there. But ultimately, we really want to thank our sponsors for this episode, because without them, we couldn't have been able to put on as great a content as we do have. And ultimately, hopefully, we're going to get more sponsors in the future to join these kinds of showcases for the conferences that are coming up. But anyways, I mean, Ron, you were there with me this time, and you and I actually presented together. And was this your first time at Lightfair?
Not my first time, but the first time in many years. The last time I was at Lightfair, it was in Philly. So that's right. 17 or 18. That was quite a while ago. So not my first time, but I think only the second or third time that I've ever been to a Lightfair.
Yeah, this was my third time going to Lightfair. I had always gone post-pandemic, so I'd never really seen it pre-pandemic. And between the two of us, I guess we do have some level of knowledge of what pre-pandemic Lightfair looks like, but it feels like it's a different show than it used to be.
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, like I said, comparing it to Philly, which was the last one I really remember vividly, there was still a lot of fluorescent and LED tubes. Like it was a lot of white light, white everywhere. There was a few color changing booths, but it was very focused on white, very focused on LED retrofit for fluorescent tubes. And that was the show back in 17, 18, when that I remember. That's very much where the market was at the time.
Right. And so now with LED and the way that lighting controls are being marketed, it's kind of a very different animal from what I have heard other people describe Lightfair to me from the past as well. And so, we're really seeing more of a dynamic environment that people are working with rather than trying to work with fluorescence. It's really more of a painter's choice of lighting and controls than it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And much more controls based, right? I mean, it seemed like almost every manufacturer or vendor out there had some sort of control solution. I mean, I saw everything from wireless emergency lighting, to EV charging stations. I mean, that's what the show is developing into. And there was some, obviously you were part of one of them, but there was a lot of really good conversations about electrification and the role that EV is going to play on the grid, and how can we maybe potentially counteract some of that with lighting controls. Future episode maybe coming soon. We'll see.
Yeah, I definitely want to do something on that, because it sparked a lot of interesting debate, and I think we're really at the forefront. People who haven't heard this term electrification or electrification offset, I mean, we're talking about how much power it takes to charge electric vehicles, and the fact that that requires a huge amount of infrastructure to support if you can't offset that energy demand. So, it could even be equal to the entire electrical footprint of the building to have your parking lot with EV chargers. So there's a lot of talk about that, and we definitely want to bring in people who are working on this on a regular basis, engineers and manufacturers who are dealing with this regularly, because I think it is really a new concept that everybody's going to have to embrace.
Oh, for sure. I feel like it's a little bit of the Wild West right now, right? It's where controls was 5 or 10 years ago, right? It's very much the Wild West. And while things still are, don't get me wrong, there is still a lot of that going on. There's a lot more opportunities and solutions out there. And I feel like this whole thing with electrification is very interesting, and it's going to continue to evolve. And there's a lot of manufacturers, I think, trying to figure out, how does everyone fit into this piece of the pie, and then what are the utilities going to do? So
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so there's that. And it also seemed like, from a lighting control standpoint, there's more pressure to adopt an open perspective, an open standard. I mean, there was a lot more conversation about Bluetooth SIG or WirePass or other open standards that are more common in Europe. And while maybe it's not going to be an immediate effect on our situation in the US, it may be a slow grassroots effort that causes an adoption of more open standards and protocols in our systems.
Yeah, and it may even come down to a few manufacturers that jump onto it, right? That start to sort of push the movement, as maybe there's a loss of market share from manufacturer A or B because of this open source. And that may happen. But there were a lot of conversations around that. I'd love to see more of the manufacturers get involved in those conversations, but it was encouraging to see it moving forward.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people ask the question, well, who do I use when it's an open standard? And it's kind of like, well, you use anybody you want to use when it's an open standard. I mean, it's not that it's, well, if it's an open standard, who's in charge of my light switch? It's, you design the system, but you get to pick whose light switch you're using and whose occupancy sensor you're using. So it's a very different mindset from how we have lighting controls designing in the US right now, where it's very much like, okay, I need manufacturer X, and I'll design around manufacturer X for my system.
Yeah, and I think that's really going to wreak havoc for as much as I appreciate it, it's also going to wreak havoc on a lot of the controls design, right? So because we've talked about this, there are controls designers, but there are also a lot of reps that do the controls design. So you're going to have controls design from reps coming from the manufacturers that they represent and are part of their line card, whereas you may have a controls designer who's across the board, across multiple reps. So it'll be interesting to see how some of the controls designs evolve as this sort of plays out.
Right. No, I agree. And again, this is so preliminary that it may not even happen. I feel like we've been here before the dollar. So as far as widespread adoption of this in the US, it's kind of anybody's guess, but it would be really interesting to see how that dynamic shifts the workflow in our country.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see what happens, but hey, one day at a time, right? We'll do what we can, and we will keep trying to push the conversation and try and hold people's feet to the fire and try and make things happen.
Any other observations from Lightfair that you had?
I mean, that was the big stuff, right? A lot more DMX, a lot more controls based, color changing, color tuning. There was a lot of that going on. Of course, there's just more of it, but controls, controls, controls. I don't remember Lightfair being so controls heavy in the past. And like I said, the presence of EV this year was very pronounced. So it'll be interesting to see how the show continues to develop, because we're at a show called Lightfair, and yet there's EV all over the show floor. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues to develop.
No, I completely agree. And hopefully we'll find out in a couple of years. It's now going to every other year. And it looks like they decided they're going to do Vegas in a couple of years. So
great.
We'll find out in Vegas in a couple of years.
And anyone who wasn't caught on that, Webster and I did one class together. Webster did 3 others as well, because he's a crazy person. The education is probably one of the most amazing things about Lightfair. The education classes and the way they broke it up in the various tracks. There was designers tracks, there was integrators tracks. They very much broke it up in a way to make it easy for people to say, I want to take these classes, rather than them trying to have to figure it out through the hundreds that there were. So there was a lot of material over 4 days, because the classes started on Sunday. So 5 days, Sunday, Monday. Yeah. So there was a lot of material.
Sunday through Thursday.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 5 days. 5 days of material.
We can count. I swear.
Right. So there was a lot. There was a lot to take in, and the education is a great thing. And you should absolutely, if you haven't been to Lightfair before, or you have and didn't check out the classes, that is something that you should spend some time on and definitely look at in the future, because it is absolutely worth attending those classes and sitting in and joining in on the conversations.
Yeah, and that was the big bummer for me, is that because I was doing so many presentations, I couldn't sit in on some of the presentations I really wanted to check out. So, as a speaker, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm dedicating a lot of time to getting these up there and ready for people to listen to and view. And so, definitely big props to all the presenters who put their heart and soul into these presentations, because they're always very high quality, and I'm really sad I didn't get to see any of them this year.
Yeah, no, it was good, and it's a lot of work. I mean, you and I only did one together, and it's ours is only an hour. Yeah. I can only imagine that 3-hour one that you worked on. Like it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
Yes, but it's worth it. I thoroughly enjoy presenting on this subject, and it seems like people appreciate, at least to some degree, the information that I am sharing. So, and we're all just trying to stumble in the right direction when it comes to this stuff, because the hard skills are easy, what terminates to what, but the soft skills are really the thing that take a lot of effort and time to do, so that when you're talking and evaluating, troubleshooting, all of that you're maintaining a solid contact with people and not treating people like crap, because that will roll back on you. I mean, that was one of the takeaways from the integration presentation that you and I did. One of the questions they asked was, well, how do you get everybody into the same room? And it's like, well, patience and kindness. That's it. That's all you can do.
Yep. So, there's been multiple times I've shown up with coffee and donuts just to a meeting. Like, it's whatever it takes to get everyone at the table sometimes.
But yeah, so anyways, thank you everyone for joining us on the Lightfair episode. Check out the upcoming clips from the various sponsors that we have for this episode. Really great stuff they've got for you to see. If you didn't get a chance to go to Lightfair this year, really we hopefully do a good job representing their booth and the information they're trying to communicate on the show floor. But otherwise, we'll see you in a couple of years with the Lightfair special.
I'm here at the ETC booth at Lightfair with Sean Fernandez. Sean is going to go over some of the cool new products and stuff that they have this year. But Sean, do you mind giving us a quick sort of rundown on ETC?
Yeah, absolutely. So ETC started as a theatrical console company in the late 1970s. At that point, our main goal was just developing consoles. In the 90s, we took on dimming, we took on fixtures, and ultimately that evolved to control line, right? People wanted the ability to control their lights in theaters without an entertainment console. And then that line expanded to the 5 lines we have now to do architectural controls. So anything under the Unison umbrella is really designed for these architectural or commercial applications. And that's really what our focus is at the show.
Awesome. Very cool. So why don't you walk us through some of the products you guys are having to show this year?
Yeah, so starting over here, we have our F-Drive and our Navis solution. So F-Drive is intended to be a remote driver system for fixtures, for LED fixtures. We have a rack mount version and a wall mount version. Now, each of these control solutions have different flavors, for lack of better words. They can work with color-changing fixtures, fade-to-warm fixtures, white light fixtures. We also have options to work with third-party fixtures through constant current or constant voltage. Now, from the system, we run Cat6 up to these fixtures. We can daisy-chain up to 4 of them. We also have breakout boxes, so if you are working with a third-party fixture, you can separate into 2 wires and go from there to those other fixtures. We also have a new accessory that we're bringing out this year that allows you to do line dimming of our Navis fixtures as well. So if you don't want to use our F-Drive system, if you want to just do line dimming on it, you have that option as well. Over here on the other side of the booth, we're showing off our Mosaic control system. Now, Mosaic is designed to do dynamic control of light, so things like color changing for applications like building facades, parks, hotel lobbies, things we're going to do some really cool effects with color changing lights. That's really what Mosaic excels at. We have a whole bunch of different flavors for different size projects, different applications over there. Finally, back here behind me is our new O3 Hub. Now, the O3 Hub is designed to work with our EcoFlex control system, which is our more commercial solution. So EcoFlex systems are designed to be small distributed systems, but sometimes you might need to tie those systems back to a single location, especially for things like building management. And the O3 Hub is something we introduced last summer, but it allows you to branch out each of those individual control solutions and tie them together into a single network control solution.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, Sean, thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you for the rundown on ETC and the products in the booth. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks.
I'm here with Marissa from SGM. She's going to tell us a little bit about the latest from SGM. What do you got there?
All right, so this is SGM's new i1 Linear. This is a 2-foot segment of it. It's also available in 1-foot and 4-foot. This product here is meant for grazing type applications, so large surfaces.
So if I want to do a color changing facade or something.
Color changing facades, etc. There's different beam angles, so 8 degrees, 11 degrees, 29, 60, and some elliptical options available for this fixture, depending on what offset you have from your wall, the distance that it needs to throw, all of that. So.
And then you were telling me earlier about the output of these chips. So what's unique about this?
Yes, so these are low power fixtures here. So 1 foot is a maximum of 35 watts of power. And out of that 1 foot segment, you're getting just under 1,600 lumens of light coming out of this fixture here.
And so if I'm doing just red here, how many watts is that using?
So a cool technology about this fixture actually is dynamic channel drive. So when we are just using an individual LED, the extra power that's not being used to run the other colors is all put into this red chip. So all on white, we've got our 35 watts of power distributed between those. But when using just red or just blue, you've actually got a higher output of that color because that extra stuff is now fueling that one singular color.
So you no longer have that drop if you're just going to a solid color. You're
Correct.
Keeping the same intensity essentially.
Correct.
And
Yes.
and so what kind of ratings does this fixture have?
So this is an IP66 rated fixture, 5-year warranty for permanent outdoor installation on this. AK9 rating, 3G rating in progress as well.
Great. So I can do this on bridges hopefully soon and,
Yes.
and all kinds of outdoor applications.
Yes, all kinds of outdoor applications. RGBW, so any sort of color. There's also a tunable white version in progress as well.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, here at Lightfair 2023 Lighting Controls Podcast, here with Simon from Pharos. Simon, you want to tell us what's new and great with Pharos?
Yeah, sure. So Lightfair is the first big launch of Expert in the US, which is our new dynamic lighting controller designed specifically for the architectural market. So it's all about making it really simple and intuitive to bring dynamic lighting control to a project. In particular, where you might have some functional lighting and then a little bit of dynamic lighting, then Expert is the controller for that.
So if it's a small scale application, I just need to quickly program it. Nothing too fancy.
Yeah, and you say quick there. I mean, that's really key. It guides you through the setup. You don't need to master a bit of complex software. You don't need to go on a training program. In fact, we've seen people who've come to it for the first time. They've got no knowledge of Pharos before. They open the software and they can get set up. They've maybe got one or two quick questions, but they've got set up. They've got a touchscreen user interface all set up automatically by the software. They've got everything patched and it works. And they've managed to create something dynamic and interesting with our library of effects, which with our existing range, which we've rebranded Designer to fit alongside Expert. Although it's extremely flexible and powerful, that's great for lots of applications. Sometimes you don't need all of that.
Right.
So if you don't, it looks expensive. It looks like it's time consuming. With Expert, we've managed to simplify it.
So it's almost like you're creating a scalable option here.
Yes.
So if you have this small versus if you have the large scale, I mean, Pharos is fantastic for these large scale applications. But to your point, if I'm a lighting designer, I'm not going to be able to spend the time to learn Designer. So that's where Expert comes in.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly where we're aiming it. And it's just really it's really great to be able to offer something when Designer is too much.
Yeah.
And I think we had to think. We've thought for years, to be honest. How do we answer those projects where the LPC one is too much? Do we reduce channel count? And clearly not. I mean, I'm really glad we didn't, because as time's gone on, actually channel count has increased.
Sure.
Without fixtures have got cheaper. So you say large scale projects. Actually, Expert is up to 2 universes.
Wow.
There probably will be a slightly higher capacity Expert, because it's not so much about channel count. It's it's not the channels, it's the way you use them. That really is true. It's how simple is it to get something that looks good.
Yeah.
Even if it's quite a few universes.
Right. Absolutely. So I mean, to your point, the scale really is more about the user interface, the interactivity, the programming, not so much the actual physical scale of the project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking like 10 universes, then that's a whole other situation.
That's a whole other situation. Then you need something else.
Right. But hopefully at that point, you're talking much more complex programming anyways. You want something fancier.
Yeah, although Expert does do something very simply that in Designer is, probably takes a bit of work, which is this space-based control. So it makes it's quite, we think it's quite innovative.
Yeah.
The way that you can tag your scenes and you schedule not scenes directly. I mean, you can if you want, but you actually schedule states. You schedule things like whether your attraction is open or closed, and then automatically in the background, Expert's working out whether it's day or night, what day of the week it is, and then it picks the best lighting for each space according to how you've tagged those states. So you're not necessarily doing an imperative at 3 o'clock, I want these scenes to run in this space unless this is happening. You're not doing all that show control logic that you can do in Designer. Instead, it's very simple to set up this natural behavioral driven approach.
Well, I would say
it makes more sense to designers.
Yeah, and I would say it even makes sense for the owners too.
Yeah.
If they want to go in and edit stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So we will make it possible for you to edit the schedule on the touch station. It's not quite there yet.
Okay.
But it will be possible for the end user to go onto our touch station and change the schedule, not in terms of like red sparkle in space 5, but in terms of change the opening times. Oh, today I'm opening late. And Expert just works out what that means in terms of lighting.
And that's a lot of things that we're hearing from ownership is they want to have some level of control, not necessarily all the nuts and bolts, but some level of tinkering so they don't have to call the integrator like that.
Yeah, exactly. And of course it will connect to Pharos Cloud, so you can go and
So you can pay for that additional service and have that accessibility outside of the building.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone, to the first live stream of the Lighting Controls podcast here at Lightfair 2023. We're your hosts, Webster, Marsh, and Ron Kuszmar.
What's up, everyone? How you guys doing? It's really fun to be here. This is the first time that Webster and I are actually recording together in person, which is kind of fun. Even though we live in the same area, this is the first time we've ever been together, so this is fun. we have McWong with us, and we've got Tony and Blaine, and you guys are going to go over some information and also go over some projects with us.
Right on.
So why don't you guys sort of jump in and we'll go from there.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Webster and Ron. Thank you. I'm feeling a bit starstruck here. I'm a big fan of the podcast, so I really appreciate you having us on.
Well, thank you for joining us, and also thank you for being a sponsor of
Absolutely.
of the podcast.
Giving you guys
Really,
we're honored.
It's been
We're honored.
fantastic.
Great. So my name is Blaine Gettle. I'm one of the executive VPs at McWong. Been with the company 25 years.
Wow.
McWong next year will be celebrating 40 years in business.
Wow.
And a lot has changed in those 40 years, as you could imagine. We're really excited. We have just, with our focus on controls over the last 5 years or so, we've become the most winning, Bluetooth lighting controls product offering company. So we're really excited. And we just heard this morning that year we've won the Star Award from LEDs Magazine.
Wow.
nice.
Used to be the Sapphire Award, so
Nice.
we're really excited about that, and that's on top of last year's Lightfair Technical Innovation Award. So we're thrilled, and hats off to our team.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, congratulations. I mean, that really says a lot about your products, because it's hard.
Thank you.
It's a hard industry. There's a lot out there.
Absolutely.
out there.
I mean, absolutely. Just so many competitors we really admire. So it's a tough space. I think McWong, folks who have worked with us over the past couple of decades have always known McWong as a U.S.-based company with a very strong China manufacturing location. And I think what's exciting also over the last 5 years, McWong's undergone major diversification across Asia and significant diversification here in North America as well. And so, the pandemic for us had a silver lining. As challenging as it was, people became very adept at working remotely.
Yep.
And so that's enabled us to build a world-class team. Besides our headquarters in Sacramento, we've got folks in San Francisco and San Diego, and outside of California, from Oregon to Indiana and Florida to Michigan. So, I'm so proud of our team, and just really, really honored to be a part of it.
Well, and that really bolsters your position, because that's one of the things that Ron and I really talk about in our podcast is getting local support, getting people involved who you can call them and they'll be there for you.
Absolutely. That, I think, has been the single greatest factor in success over the years, is being committed to our customer success and being there to offer the support. So yeah, and speaking of Michigan, I'll turn it over to Tony to talk about some real world applications for some of our products.
Sure. But we do invest heavily in training our customers. That goes from our OEM right to the installer. It's been a big part of our success. Absolutely. So we'll provide design support, commissioning support, and so on. And we'll do that either remotely or even on site.
Nice.
Yeah. So we have a real broad range portfolio of projects. We do outdoor, we do indoor, and combined indoor-outdoor. I'll share one of those projects with you. And parking decks is kind of an area where we have an expertise in as well.
Yeah, I mean, so you run the gamut.
Indeed. I think we've probably covered the full spectrum.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, an outdoor project that we've done in Pennsylvania is a large office, professional office park. It's 133 acres, so pretty large site.
Yeah.
11 parking lots, pad road, the ring road lounging, because that's linear. That's really not so conducive for mesh. Right?
Yeah.
You can't build a grid, but we've added range extenders, which really provides a good completeness rate for us and connectivity with our Bluetooth signal.
Sure.
That project typically mainly uses an astronomical clock and motion sensing. And we also have incorporated with it a gateways, I should say, there are several, so that they can have remote access and energy data. So that's our.
So I mean, you've got 11 parking lots here. You've got a linear stretch of road. You've got range extenders to make sure that mesh network is shored up. How long did that take to design?
Well, the design wasn't difficult. It was more the implementation. and we had to learn a few things on the way too.
Sure.
Seasons change and foliage changes.
I was just going to add that.
That was an early quickly learned.
That was
How
the
much
process.
did that affect the foliage, affect the Bluetooth?
Dramatically.
Really?
Wow.
That's why we added the range extenders. We initially
Interesting.
did not have them. We were looking pretty good. We were able to control everything reasonably well. And then we started to see
winter.
some zones that just weren't communicating.
Ah.
And so we added our range extenders to compensate. And that's
Nice.
because the foliage
Well, again,
heavier.
more argument to what you guys are doing to support the project after the fact. I mean,
Yes.
ongoing support is essential with lighting controls.
Yeah, we get calls in the day and at night, so always available. I shared some indoor projects with you as well. We do tennis and sports facilities, soccer fields, office space, classrooms, manufacturing and warehousing. But what I wanted to share with you is a 9-story building that we've done in downtown Minneapolis. So you've got nine stories. You've got different zone requirements, different schedules, different control strategies, and even within a floor, because you have multiple tenants even on one floor. But again, that was daylight harvesting we incorporated, and motion sensing, and some remote switches as well, some wireless switches. There again, we've added a gateway so that they can have remote access and the energy data. So that was a pretty large. We think the largest Bluetooth mesh project with over 4,000 nodes.
Wow.
That's pretty sizable.
And so how many gateways were involved in that?
Actually, not as many as you think.
Really?
We had 4.
You had 4 gateways for that.
Yep.
How much square footage was that?
I don't know the
Oh,
exact
then
answer.
fair enough.
9 stories. I've been in it.
But
I'd
yeah,
be
so I mean,
guessing.
9 stories, 4 gateways. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's phenomenal.
That was a pretty nice project. And worked very closely with one of the ESCOs that were local. Other projects that we've done too were combined indoor-outdoor. This one I'm working right now in Michigan. That one is a large sports center. It has 3 indoor soccer fields in all their corporate offices, restaurants, so on, facilities manager's office. Then we have to communicate to the outside and control 110 sports lights on baseball diamonds, then go back indoors into a connector building that manages the lights for 2 soccer domes and the parking lots around the perimeter. And the owners and managers wanted to be able to access any part of this area with their phone or their app and remotely. So that was
that sounds like a
significant
challenge.
undertaking, but having
So
some great success.
when do you anticipate that to be completed?
It's actually being installed now, so probably within 30 days we should have it wrapped up.
Looks like it would be a good case study to talk
Indeed.
about.
We'll be writing
Well,
that
maybe
one
we'll have you back on when you're done with it.
All right. That'd be a great one. Yeah, one more I'll mention too, if I may, is our parking decks. We kind of have an expertise in that area as well. We work with architects, we work with engineering firms, we work with the installers and so on, cities and property owners. And in that, the top deck is typically photocell, then occupancy sensing on the other layers, other decks, deck layers. And we also incorporated JP Morgan Chase daylight harvesting because of that inbound lighting that we were able to capture. So we had zoning and zone linking on that facility. And then we have one more unique feature that we also incorporate, and that is a reverse photocell, as we dub it. So at entrances and entrance and exit, we have the lights actually brighter when it's brighter out. Kind of you do it in a long tunnel. You don't want your eyes to have such a rapid transition. Sorry, it's falling on my head.
Oh, no worries.
Rapid transition, and this way it's a little easier on your eyes when you enter into the.
I think we're losing you. Do you mind just picking your mic up a little bit?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
There we go.
So when you enter and exit the deck, it's not so abrupt.
Got it.
You transition with your eyes.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, because that basically aligns with like tunnel lighting. You know,
Exactly.
you want to make sure
Same
that
theory.
people's eyes adjust as they transition from a brighter or darker space.
Absolutely, yeah. And that, I mean, I think that speaks to these projects that Tony lays out, speaks to the breadth of what you can do with Bluetooth mesh.
Yeah.
The flexibility and the indoor, outdoor, back indoor again. And it, it's I think the more we learn, the more we realize the capabilities and what we can do with it. And we're just beginning to scratch the surface of non-lighting benefits also, which there's been a lot of talk about. And I think people now start to roll their eyes when they hear that. But I think now they're finally saying, hey, wait a minute, we can start to realize some of these benefits. So, so hopefully over the next 6 months or so, we'll have case studies that we can
That'd be
speak
awesome.
to on that as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think as it goes for what you're talking about, you basically are taking the whole pie and doing everything for the lighting controls, unlike other systems that may say, oh, well, we only do interior or we only do exterior.
Right.
You don't need integration because it's already connecting everything.
And we're incorporating using the API data to tie into BMS as well, to building management systems. We did the University of Guatemala, where we tied it into Schneider's building management system as well. That was a nice.
And so you did the
accomplishment there.
API tie-in with that.
We used BACnet.
You use
Yeah,
BACnet, so
via BACnet.
That's right.
and then you
Correct.
just expose the points on your system to the BACnet system.
Exactly.
Did
Yeah,
you work with a
share the
systems
data.
integrator then?
We did in Pelsa in Guatemala.
Oh, sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, I think that's the next step with lighting controls. We're
Yep.
seeing a lot of integration with BMS nowadays.
Indeed, I think that's going to be a continuing requirement, especially when it comes to doing large facilities.
Mhm.
Universities, municipalities, they're going to want to sit and have a dashboard with
Right.
all that
Yeah.
data available.
Yeah.
The dashboard data is going to be a big thing for everybody, right?
And that's what we're
That's one of the things that we've been discussing is whoever gets there first with the most elegant dashboard for all of the devices and all the sensors is going to end up taking
Oh yeah,
a big part of the pie.
HVAC tied into that. so you have
Absolutely,
data.
exactly.
That's right. We were
Exactly.
working hard on
We're
that.
on that mission. Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. That was very great.
Yeah,
So-
no, I
appreciate
mean,
you
there's
taking the
awesome
time,
stuff that you guys are
joining us.
coming out with. I'm looking forward to seeing those case studies. I mean, it sounds like you guys are just trying to stay on the cutting edge of everything right now, which is great.
Great. Well, thank you for having us. Keep up the great work on the podcast. We really enjoy it. So
Well, thanks so much.
thank you.
And
Thanks.
anybody want to
Appreciate
check out their product, go to McWonginc.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.